so you guys are going to have to excuse my big headset and microphone here. My webcam microphone wasn't working. So today we're talking about the psychological effects of divorce on children. Now, according to Frank Furstenberg, half of all American children will witness the breakup of a parent's marriage. Of those children, nearly half will see the demise of the parent's second marriage. So many people would argue that there's no good time in a child's life for parents to divorce. And according to most of the scholarly journals that I've looked into, that argument's pretty valid. Ultimately, all that changes about divorce on children is the way that the child receives and responds to the dismemberment of their family unit. Now, as a child of divorce myself, with a little one of my own, the psychological effects of divorce have always intrigued me. I've always kind of wanted to know when that change takes place. At what age do the effects differ? Now, because divorce rates have peaked at an all-time high in 1997, it remains to be a very relevant topic in how we interact with those around us. Even if you are not personally a product of divorce, it's very likely that someone with whom you regularly interact is one. So knowing the facts about how that divorce affected them and changed them will help in your efforts to communicate effectively. So, obviously, just as young children respond differently than adolescents to just about anything, the divorce of parents is no different. Children, being from the ages of 2 to 10, that's going to be the time frame that we're working on for children, those kids seem to act regressively. They tend to take some steps backwards when presented with a divorce. Dr. Carl Pinkhart suggests that regression is an attempt at reaching a different time for the young child, a time when everything was safe and everything felt comfortable. Now, you have to remember that permanence, the concept of permanence is relative to a child of a young age. So children involved in a divorce have a very hard time not creating a fantasy reunion of their parents. Now, Dr. Pinkhart also suggests that joint presence at certain functions like holidays, birthdays, that kind of thing, can, instead of having their intended effect of maintaining unity within the family, they can only feed a young child's fantasy and delay adjustment and ultimate acceptance of the separation. So you're maybe not necessarily helping your child by continuing to maintain that family unit, even though there is not one. Children past the age of 10 typically have begun to assert their independence in everyday life, so regression at that point is just not very likely. Preteens and adolescents, we're talking the ages of 11 to 18, they tend to act aggressively and defensively in light of the divorced parents scenario. Now, the adolescent sees himself as a separate entity entirely from the divorcing parents because he often feels so emotionally distant. In his younger years, he thought his parents' world consisted only of him, but after seeing that they had a love completely separate from him, and now that that has died, he's likely to feel very disassociated. This sense of independence can often project itself as rebellion, but it's not. It's really just the teen asserting himself and thinking that he has to take care of himself. Now, Pinkhart suggests that where a young child felt grief from the divorce, the teen has a grievance. He says that the teen loses some confidence and some trust that he had in his parents to take care of the family, so he feels compelled to do so himself. Of course, we know from various resources, books, studies, journals, experiments, everything, that emotional turmoil at any age can easily lead to psychological and or behavioral issues later on. Children who come from divorced homes have a markedly harder time building meaningful relationships that last through life. According to a study done in 1993, teenage children from a divorced home are 3 times more likely to need psychological help within a given year. A given year from the divorce, these children show signs of loneliness, depression. Other kids refer to them as unpleasant to be around. Now, kind of taking a step back and looking at some larger statistics, 70% of long-term prison inmates are products of divorce. That is according to a study that was done by the National Institute of Corrections, and in their terms, long-term prison is considered to be 10 plus years. Now, finally, people whose parents divorced before they were 18 years old are 40% more likely to get a divorce. Stay with me. Of those people, 63% are statistically more likely to divorce a second time. One more big whammy. Of those 63%, 77% are more likely to divorce yet again a third time. So some of the facts that I've presented you with may seem dated, but I can't help to find them relevant today. In 1993, when some of the statistics were reached, the divorce rate was 0.46% per capita. So that's according to the National Center for Health Statistics. Ultimately, that's 1,187,000 divorces in a year across America. Now, so in 2014, same institute did another study, and the divorce rates had soared to 0.57% per capita, which equates to 1,305,700 divorces. There are endless resources breaking down the psychological effects of the psychological effects on people in general when going through a divorce. But all too often, minor children are a casualty that seems to be an afterthought. So by being conscious of the effects on every age group of child throughout the divorce, we can better communicate with those around us who may have suffered this as they were growing up. According to the American Journal of Family Law, half of all divorces performed in the United States today involve minor children. That sums up to a minimum of 652,850 children per year, when working under the assumption that all those families that we talked about have only one minor child. It's our responsibility as parents, husbands and wives, friends, co-workers, and just fellow human beings in general, to continuously be working to understand the inward and outward struggles of those around us. By doing that, by knowing how people got to be the way that they are, we can be conscious of what caused those behaviors and better communicate with them and be more effective in our day-to-day transactions. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.